back to the RC barn. Today we are going to start on a new project, the Goldberg Ultimate 10-300. It's a very popular airplane out there. I know a lot of guys have had them and flown them over the years, and there's still a bunch of them out there, even though it hasn't been produced in a long time. In fact, they're probably hiding in shops and barns across the United States and other places. So, and there's also a lot of airplanes out there that you can purchase to get you in the air a little faster and usually at a better bargain than buying new. So these are what I'm going to call this series is the Revive and Fly. We are going to not do a whole lot of cosmetic stuff to these planes. We're going to get them. We're going to use used equipment to get them flying, and that way more of your budget friendly builds and stuff like that. So this could also save you a bunch of money. I don't know anybody off the top of my head. I'm sure there's arse out there that you could buy that would be in the 60 to 120 size like the Goldberg Ultimate is, but you know, those are going to set you back a lot of money. Something like this, like what I got here, probably going to set you back about 150 bucks. So this is someone started a restoration on it, Ultimate, and so this is kind of the shape that it's in. The one elevator has been recovered. The rudder's been recovered. The fuselage has not. The wings have been recovered. So all that's really left, if we wanted to recover this, would be to peel back the fuselage and, you know, cover it and put our decals on there, and we'd probably have a really nice airplane. Maybe you don't want to go there. Maybe this is your first bite, or maybe you're not sure you're going to like how it flies. So what we're going to do here, especially in this series, is just, you know, throw basic stuff at it. What's it take to get a plane in the air? We're going to go through a maintenance list, and we're going to go through the fuel system and the electronics and all that. Generally speaking, you could get one of these to fly in a weekend. So I'm starting here on a Tuesday night. I'm going to be working on this all week, and hopefully by Sunday this will be flying. Now these are going to be real short videos, about an hour long. Like I said, I'm going to get kind of get into the revivals a little bit here, and not restorations. You know, we can decide what we want to do with this airframe later on after we fly it. Now, I've had these before. They're a ball to fly. I actually got 2 more upstairs, so those are future rebuild projects. But anyways, this one, we're going to get this one in there real quick. It's getting towards the end of the season, so we're not going to have a whole lot of flight time left, maybe another month and a half or so. It's already getting cold out. Building season's right around the corner. So anyways, I hope you stick around and watch this. I hope you'll pick up some tips and tricks, and maybe you guys also can go out, search Marketplace, or like the Dynamic Balsa in Lenore. You know, he sells a lot of stuff like this for, you know, $200-300 bucks with everything in it. You just need to go through it and make sure that it's safe to fly. So anyways, stick with me. Also a little Easter egg here. What are we doing for a motor? Because this did not come with a motor. You got a very nice 120 OS 120 4-stroke going on the nose of this thing. So anyways, I'm going to get situated here, and we'll go through this thing real quick and see what we got going on. All right, so I got you on handheld here so I can get you some up close and personal pictures here of what we got going on. So as you can tell, the covering here it's pretty sad. I mean, he had the decals on here and ripped some of them off. Some of them didn't. You can see the color difference between the rudder and the vertical stave and horizontal elevator, and that. See how this is much wider than this. Yeah. So anyways, we're not going to worry too much about it. There's no holes in this thing. Now this isn't going to last very long. I mean, you're probably going to, you know, get a half a season's of flight in this thing, and then you're going to want to strip this down and recover it, because the coverings are going to literally start falling off. Now you can see back here where it's flaking, right? There's no hole there. It's just the paint's on the inside and it's flaked off, and this is, a lot of this is open. If you're not familiar with the construction of this. So we'll flip her upside down here and show the insides here. Now it does have a receiver and a battery in there. I'm not going to trust that stuff. Like I said, a lot of this is, you know, use your own common sense when you're reviving stuff like this. I mean, it's got 149s in it, Futabas. Now those servos they're pretty old. I'm gonna be honest. Am I gonna use them? Yep, they look pretty new to me, and they don't have a lot of play in them. I mean, there's just a ever so slightly amount of play in these bearings. So these servos are actually in really good shape, and it's got the same on the wings over here. I'll walk you over here and show you the wings, so you can see these were, like I said, covered. He didn't do the ailerons though. I mean, look at the color differential between that. So, and already a fan because he uses my favorite control horns from Dubro. See, well, guys. But 148s on the ailerons, and there's 4 ailerons here. This is what this plane would have been flown with back in the day. You know, 124 stroke and 148 servos, FM receiver. Now I'm not going to. This all does work. I plugged I actually had a radio that had this crystal in here. If I can get her pulled out here one-handed. Okay. So channel 29, it had 18 on it. That's too far of a jump for me. So, but it does work. So I turned it on and everything powered up. I plugged a new battery into it. So everything was good there. So anyways, you can use your, you know, a lot of people would upgrade this to 2.4. So like I said, it was in the middle of a restoration here. So like the control horns aren't hooked up. And actually the, you know, didn't even put holes in there. This is a little, I think it was this one. Yeah, see, that's a little suspect to me. One of these is worse. There's the worst one. So we're going to have to visit this. I don't want that much slop in my elevator, especially with a big 120 on it. And actually the slop is in the, look at this. I don't know if you can see this or not. Now these are flat pins. And like I said, you know, on the, you don't glue your hinges in, just use toothpicks. Those are toothpicks. But this is so old that it's starting to loosen up there. And that's where that play's coming from. So we might have to revisit. The biggest thing with these is make sure you're being safe. You know, I mean, you need good servos, which we have. You need good hinges, which we don't have. So I'll show you how easy it is. We'll drill these out, and these will probably pull right out. And then we can either put epoxy these back in, or you know, fix up the balsa wood and see what we got when we get things apart. So that's, you know, one thing. The rudder seems like it's in good shape. It you know, pull on your set this up. You know, go ahead and grab a hold of this thing. And now he's got cloth in here. I guarantee you those are probably pretty brand new. But, you know, pull on it, do a tug test. I've already done it on this. Did the same on the ailerons. You know, make sure things aren't going to fall apart when you get them out to the airfield. What has this got in it for servos? Or for, this has got cloth CA hinges too. It's fine. Won't hurt anything. The cowl is cut up a little bit, but and it's a little dinged. I actually got a new one that if we wanted to restore it, we could go ahead. We're going to use this one. Actually lines up with the motor pretty good. Take a look at the firewall. Like I said, just going through the paces. Now this thing's had a couple motor mount changes and probably motor changes too, because you can see the dowel rod in there that he epoxied in. So there's nothing wrong with this, and this is nice and solid. There's nothing caving and, you know, twist on it and pull on it and yank on it. And so anyways, something that I did when I was looking at it earlier, and I got to thank Matt at wherever it went. There it is. Matt at MBMRC. This is why this project took off. I've had this floating around for about a month. And then Matt reached out to me over at MBMRC and asked me if I had any need for an OS 124 stroke. And I'm like, yes, I do, actually. And yes, if you watch Perky, you'll know he just had problems with one of these engines. So I guess I'm a glutton for punishment. And we're going to try this one. Now, he said this one runs really good and it's fairly new. He's been a very reliable source for parts because they change a lot of stuff over there. So I buy, if he's selling it and I have a need for it, I usually get it. I mean, look at the muffler; it's hardly. He said, I think he said he broke it in and it's only got a few things past that. I mean, it's still got those feeler gauges for adjusting the valves. I mean, look at that; it's brand new. So that's going to end up on here. But the funny thing is I don't even have to change the motor mounts on this. I guess I'm getting a little lucky. It falls right in there. And everything was cut out. So I imagine that this thing had, last time it flew, had a 120 on it. So we're good there. So anyways, we're going to go through this a little bit. I'm going to do a little piece every night. Probably start with, we got to pull the fuel tank out and check that. It's pretty ugly in there. That's the other thing I was going to show you guys. You don't want to just hook a nitro motor up to your old fuel tank. So, I don't know if you can see that in there. There it is. That's an old Sullivan tank. It's just hanging by a thread in there. It probably would have had rubber bands in or something, but I know we can open this. That's why this patch is here, because you can open this up and then just patch over it and put the cowl back on it, and no one's the wiser. So, yeah. But it should be fun, and like I said, today's Tuesday, so hopefully by Sunday I'm going to try to do this all in one video here, probably about an hour long, and we'll complete it with the will it fly part. So anyways, I'll bring you back here in a minute. Alright, I guess I should have clarified myself a little bit. A lot of you guys probably aren't, well, some of the older guys will know about these 72 megahertz systems, but they got what they call a high and a low frequency. And low, I think, starts out at like 19 or 18. I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong in the comment section down below. But, and then you go up to, trying to remember what the high number is. It's like 40 or something. But anyways, you could swap crystals between receivers as long as, okay, so you could go like 19 to a 20. But you didn't want to go to take a channel 19 receiver and put a 40 in or a 30 or something real high like that, because of the way that these things are set up. Now, I know some people will say that's a myth, but I tend to believe when more than one person is telling me that, especially in RC world, and guys that are messing with older radios and stuff, like Cal Air told me, don't go too far of a spread. So anyways, that's kind of why I'm taking that receiver out. I got a channel 29 Futaba, it's the DX6i, and we could definitely take that out or keep that in there and turn that on. And I think there was you could put Futaba and High-Tech together, and then JR and Airtronics was kind of its own deal. But back in the day, they didn't have the servos that were all mated that had the same wiring, like this. So anyways, let's start at the front. Let's get this fuel tank out and let's see what we're dealing with here. So we're going to pull that T off. First time this thing flies, we'll probably not have a cowl on it, because I'm not familiar with that engine at all. And so, yeah, we need to. So anyways, we got a Sullivan 14-ounce tank in here. I mean, it looks good from the surface, but it could be cleaned. The diaphragm could be changed. This is pretty old. Let's get. I'm not going to use any of this old fuel line. It's just a bad idea. Not gonna do it. Flathead right here. Let's take this tank apart. And don't forget, when you're doing revivals and stuff and the plane's been sitting for a long time, don't forget about the fuel line inside the tank. Because that could cause you a lot of grief. Okay, got it loose. That's the big one. You guys getting excited about build season this year? It's like I said, right around the corner. Let's see if we can get that out now. I bet we can't even get it out. Yeah, it's already breaking apart. Yeah. This is going straight in the garbage, and I just noticed it's not through, but this thing definitely was in some kind of hit, and it's hit the, I don't know if you can see that or not. Come on, focus camera. Yeah, there you go. Hit the bolt in a crash. So the guy that owned this plane, now I do have the name of the guy inside this plane, and I googled it, and if that's the same guy that I googled, he's no longer with us. He passed away in 2019, and so yeah, it's at least been sitting probably for at least that long. Maybe it got auctioned off and our club members bought it, and then it started to go through a, restoration of sorts. But anyways, I'm going to go get a new fuel tank. I'm sure I got a new 14 ounce upstairs, so we're good there. Let's take a look up inside here and see what we got up inside here. Got some foam. Used to have that same kind of foam I used it all. Got some foam down here. Now with a pump engine, it shouldn't matter where the fuel tank's at. So we could put a pretty good sized fuel tank in here. It's definitely had some changes about it, because you can see it on pieces of balsa wood that are sticking out from there. Those ain't doing nothing. That one there. It might have been from a break. Oh, they were just C8 on. Yeah. Get some more. Oh wow. I have no idea. That was broke. So that's the old oh sorry. That's the fuel tray right there. And that was broke. That's been in there a long time. And when you start when it starts getting stuck, it's been in there a long time. Anyways, we'll do something different there. We can shove some fuel on it, see a rubber band up in there. Don't have any rubber band left to it. You got tri-stock in the corners for the firewall. Looks like 8 32nd bolts going through that. Everything looks nice and secure. You want them to keep an eye on your cabane struts too, because yeah, they're nice and tight because they're bolted down in there. Yep. So far we're going to need a new fuel tank. I got the bolts for the motor mounted right here. Those will be fine. They're drilled in here. We might go a little longer. That's a kind of a personal choice on my end. I've never had drilled out or tapped fiberglass mounts break. or pull out on me before just through normal flying. So, you know, if you're a little more uncomfortable doing that, you could put longer and put lock nuts in behind it. Give you a little extra sense of security. Let's get back on this Ultimate. I got tonight and tomorrow night to finish this up so we can go flying Sunday, because, you know, in retrospect with our build series here, you know, it's, you know, Friday night and you bought a new airplane, and it's, you know, you're dying to fly this thing. You don't have very many planes to choose from, so you got to get this finished. So yes, knife. I'm going to open up the bottom of this. It's just going to be a little easier for me, and we can patch this back in. And like I said, it's been, look how easy that came up. It's been patched before. So we're going to go ahead and open up the underneath here so we can get a fuel tank in here. Now the old tank, like I said, pretty gross. The rubber's pretty hard. I couldn't even get it apart. See? So I found this guy upstairs. It seems like it's in pretty good shape. It's actually a little bigger 16-ounce tank instead of the 12. It's amazing that the difference in size here really isn't that great. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's just this is just a little longer and a little taller is all it is, to get a couple extra ounces of fuel. So let's take this guy apart and see what kind of shape it's in. Definitely had some old oil in it, so we know it's sealed up. It feels pretty good. You want to check and make sure that everything's sealed up nice. So that looks pretty good. We can always put a another fueler in here later if we want to. There it goes. Sometimes all you gotta do is twist and push, and she'll fall back in the same spot. Now I like to take it and go up against my definitely got some old oil in there, but we can clean that up. When we, you know, it'll run out when we put fresh fuel in it. And it looks pretty. It looks like the valve's in good shape. Don't want to strip it out. Feels pretty good. It's snug. Well, it's a pumped engine, so it doesn't matter a whole lot that it's yeah, that's fine. It doesn't matter a whole lot where this goes. We could put it back here if we wanted to. I think we'll put it, I think I'll just run a piece of foam up here and a zip tie around these and call her good. I had this box. I bought this several years ago at swap meet, and I just keep refilling and reusing, and you know, you get, you know, pieces of fuel line and stuff and fuel tanks from projects that you don't need anymore or that you're replacing that are in, you know, maybe good shape. There's a 12-ounce tank. We could have used that. There's a couple of good looking fuel lines right there. Probably work just fine. Just double check before we put back in there that everything's in the right spot. I think I could move that a little bit more vertical. And we're going to put it in upside down. And So if I understand these correctly, now we're not going to need this guy. This guy can come off. Where's my knife at? We'll pop this guy off because we're not going to use it. When I lined the motor up earlier, it looked like I could just use the existing tie rod that's in there. But from what I understand, that's the fill line or the supply line for the pump. So we got to put this thing in here. Probably, I don't know what to do with that. I don't like that either. Well, it looks like I got pretty good access. Let's go ahead and get a bolt started. And we'll get this motor mounted up. Because it's a pumped engine, you guys could tell me if it's wrong, but I could put a T in here and just run a line off and then plug it, because it should not feed into the carburetor when you're pumping, because, well, the pump's only going to work when it's running, right? Because it works off of the pulses of the motor. And I can't believe how well this is fitting on here. I didn't have to drill it out or nothing. It's almost as if this used to have a 124 stroke on it. I like it when that happens. Like, what's his name said, happy little accidents, you know? The painter. See, that one's stripped. See, it just keeps turning and turning and turning. So that one will get a lock nut on it. In fact, I think I'm going to put a lock nut on at least those two, because they're long enough. And I could put them on these two because they're just barely long enough. So let's see if we got any used 632 long bolts. I'm sure I do. There's one. It looks like one. There's two. Oh, this one. No, that ain't big enough. That one is. Yeah, there's another one. One more. Come on. One more. They're gift drawer. Got big ones, and there's one. That's what I said. Never throw stuff like this away. You never know. You might be in a pinch, and it might, yep, and there's four. Or, you know, maybe, you know, we're doing a repair or something. I mean, when you crash a plane and you're not going to do a rebuild, which I would encourage you to rebuild, but, you know, sometimes they're just too far gone, you know, save this stuff. I mean, this hardware is, in my opinion, probably one of the most expensive parts of an airplane. I mean, I used to say when I would go, when I would finish a new airplane, you know, half the cost, that's too big. Half the cost is going to the hobby shop and getting all the hardware you need, the nuts and the bolts and, you know, linkages and stuff. That one works. Okay. All right, so I got that hooked up. What I did is I kind of eyeballed. You can see the rudder push rod exit here for the control rod, and I kind of eyeballed this up. And then a trick that I do when, say I cover something and I forget to poke holes, because I usually do one side and I poke the holes, especially if I want to use the old control horns again. You poke it through and then cover the other side and poke it through, so that way you don't lose where these are at. Obviously I didn't cover this, so I couldn't do that, but I lined it up and I eventually found one. And I just took a T-pin and you just poke, and if it falls through, there's your hole. So, and I'm like, did I work on this before? Because I've done this exact thing before. If you use Dubro control horns, just standard Dubro control horns, they're always set the same. So when you mirror it for a pull rod, you have to drill holes in it. And this guy did exactly that. Now he didn't. I only had one screw, so I had to go dig into my part spin, and I got. You can see how that bad boy's really long. That's mine. So, anyways, this works really good. But okay, moving on. This works flawless. It's nice and tight. You know. Okay. So let's move on to this elevator. Now, there's a couple of things here on this push rod that I don't like, and we're going to show that to you. But now it seems like they work okay. Now, you put it to their extreme, and there's not a lot of flex here. I mean, that might seem excessive, but it's not. But on this one, it is very excessive. And that will cause flutter and destroy an airplane. I need to do a video on that. You guys know about flutter? Anyways, if you look here at the extreme angle, you get close here, it's all in this hinge. So we need to address these hinges on this side. So we're going to do that. I'm going to take this apart. Part of the reason is now I've went over doing these old school push rods like this that are banded. And I'll get you out more. When I get it out, I'll show you more. But if you're doing this, and obviously it's an old plane and it's fine, and this is this is hard balsa. This is not spruce like I like to use, or dowel rod. But if you're doing this kind of stuff here, see that? See if I can get you in here. There we go. That kind of setup. Come on. You can do better than that. And it doesn't have the groove down through the center. I mean, if you guys don't know about these push rods, go back, and I think it's in my tips and tricks video where I showed how to make one of these. I do this a lot. It's really easy, especially on pre-built airplanes, because you don't have to get inside to put braces in, like if you were to use an I-rod, and you got to brace that stuff every 3 or 4 inches. This you can just slide it through. Bam, wham, bam. Got a push rod, especially if you're, plane like this where it's pretty much hollow through it. So I'm going to get all that apart. I'm not going to bore you with those details. And I'll show you what we got going on with this part and how we're going to fix it. All right, so I got this thing apart, and now while this wasn't done poorly, as bad as I thought it was, that's not bad. I mean, I like them. That's probably me just being nitpicky. And he did coat the sides for the rods to sit through, and he did a really nice job bending them up. I don't know that I could have done that much better. They're a little off, but not bad. That's why you got adjustment in this end. So, anyways, this though, boy, I don't know if he was in a hurry or what. Let's see, focus. There you go. I mean, it ain't coped at all. It's just a hole. So we're going to get rid of this end. We're going to reuse these though. I'm going to go ahead and we'll cut this off. And then I'll grab a piece of spruce or, something dowel rod to remake, and we'll remake this part. And then I'm going to cut, I'm not going to reuse this. This is why I don't use balsa wood, because, I mean, it's so flexy. I mean, after age, this is going to get super brittle. And, I don't know how old this is. I mean, this thing could be every bit of 30 years old or older. And you got to remember this these Goldberg Ultimates, I think, came out in the real early 90s. maybe late 80s. I kind of remember the hobby shop owner when I lived in Cedar Rapids when, God, that would have been 89, built one. We didn't live there very long. And I think he was one of the first ones to build one. So, this could be that old. That'd be well over 30. So, anyways, yeah, we're going to redo this mess. And what I found back here, now I went ahead and I did disassemble this half. And what I found was this pin hinge on this side was broken. And that's what was causing the little bit of flux. So we're going to have to redo that. Now, if you haven't seen my video on what you don't glue your hinges in, I highly recommend watching that. But these are Dubro pin hinges. And basically, if you just make a slot that it fits in, and then drill 2 holes and put a toothpick through there, well, then they're easily removable. And I wanted to show you that now you got to use a bigger bit because it's hardwood surrounded by softwood. But let me get you on the so anyways, you just put it on your drill press and boom, I've already done one. And we got rid of that guy. And then we'll do the next one, and then we'll get rid of that hinge. And then I'll get in my parts bin, which I'm pretty sure I probably have another one. Yep, right here. And we'll replace it. I mean, I'll probably just go ahead and do both of them just so that way they're new. And also, this is the side that he recovered. I mean, this is new covering on here. See? On both sides. So, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and replace both elevator hinges. I mean, better safe than sorry, right? So, yeah. Anyways, I'm going to get that done real quick, and then we'll just do some reassembly, and I'm going to remake this. This will probably take me about a half an hour. And then we can swap that in, and then we can start putting the receiver and battery and all that in, and get our control horn throws set up. And that won't be too much longer here, and we'll be maybe doing a test fire on him and see if he runs. So, yep, I'll bring you back in a minute. Alright, another thing I forgot to mention when you're drilling these things out is you don't necessarily have to drill them out. You can get in here with an X-Acto knife and, follow your top and bottom and just come in here and break these things out and leave them in there. And then when you go to replace them, you put it in, you re-drill your holes. Now, this has been done a couple of times. There's one set. There's another set. One set here. So this hinge has already been replaced twice. So somebody's been in here before. And they just... I mean, that's the dang Grand Canyon in there. I mean, that's our problem, see? So you pin this, and it's just going to come in here and do this, and it's just going to keep working out, and it's going to bend and tweak. There's no support in there. So there's a couple things you could do. Now, you could, if you were doing a total restoration on this, and you were going to strip this thing all down. Now, if I remember right, this is stick built with sheeting over the top of it, if I remember right. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not going to get my plans out for this to verify that. But once you strip this back and got the covering out, you could literally come in here and dissect this piece of trailing edge. Put your pulling forces coming this way, so you're going to go like this. Or no, like this, so that way you got a scarf in here. Because you don't have a lot of... This isn't a big elevator. I don't... This thing isn't wide. So, if you wanted to keep going with the Dubros, right? With the slot, with the pin, these pin hinges. Carl Goldberg made them too. I mean, yeah. Similar style. They didn't have a steel pin through them, though. I think I got some over there. I don't use them. I don't trust them. So, anyways, or you could go ahead and move your elevator horn over and go to a Robart style, because we would have room for that. See, you could put one right here and one right here and forget about these. I don't want to do that either. I want to go back with the pin, with the Dubro hinges, just to keep some uniformity back here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some 30-minute epoxy, and I'm going to shove 30-minute epoxy on this. And I also got my balsa dust, okay, thickening agent, and we're going to put some of that in there. Thicken it up a little bit. We'll sploosh that in there. We'll shove this in the hole. Boom. Let it dry. Of course, it'll be straight. And that'll give that stuff some bite in such a big area. So I don't want to do any real intrusive cutting yet on this. I think that'll work just fine. Just filling the gap up a little bit with balsa and some epoxy. And granted, next time that thing comes out, it ain't gonna be pretty. You're gonna pretty much have to cut them out to rehinge. But I don't think we really need to. I think the when we get into the restoration, which we'll see how it flies first. Remember, this is just, let's get it flying. Let's see how cheap we can do this. And, then maybe this winter, when it's going to fly good and we want to spruce this thing up, we can strip the fuselage down. We can recover it in white. Maybe get a new canopy, because I don't like the dark black canopy. I don't know. It just, tinted's okay, but black, no. We can get in that another day. And then, you're going to want to get rid of this stuff. And the only way you're going to get rid of that is to, replace the covering. So we could strip it down, recover it white, and then trim package. Hint, hint. Already got an idea, but that'll, like I said, that'll come later. But yeah, that's what we're going to do here, is just do that little bit there and fill that hole in. This one's not as bad, but it's still getting pretty gappy. You guys tell me down in the comments section below, how would you fix that without being too intrusive? So anyways, I'm going to do that, and I'll bring it back when that's all finished up. Well, of course, it's Saturday, or Sunday morning, and I'm close, but I ain't that ready yet. So I got a few more things to button up here. Did get the elevator and all that hooked up, 9-cap put in it, so we have to run that instead. That's, well, again, not a big deal. Show you what I got going on here. So I gotta cover this. I gotta fill this up with foam. That's not, we'll fill that up with foam and make it work better. Stuff's falling apart. What's new? I got my new elevator control linkage in. You can see how tightly wrapped I made that. Again, if you haven't seen my old school push rod video, I would encourage you to go see that. That's where I explained in how I do that in detail. So no more floppy elevator linkage or anything like that anymore. And I still need to fine tune here because they're not equal, but that worked well, and it's not floppy anymore. So everything seems to work good. Late last night I did put some fuel in it, as you can tell, and I went out and test fired this thing, and after some fiddling around, I got it to run. I still need to tune it. Running super rich. I did a little research on that, and the needle valve is it's not like your typical needle valve with the pump on it. So 3/4 turns out is usually rich, or where they're usually about happy, and you can usually lean them out a little bit further in from that. So it's not your normal like 2.5 turns out to start and it runs rich and you turn it and you tune it. I have a 15/8 Zinger prop on there, Dubro spinner. I'm going to forego the cowl for now because, again, still getting familiar with the engine, so we're not going to put the cowl on it, and I don't have a filler neck. So, yeah, anyways, I'm going to go ahead and button all this back up and go look for the end struts, and then we're off to the flying field. All right, so post flight, short flight, as you saw, analysis. So anyways, yep, motor died on takeoff. Some of the worst things that can happen is when you're taking off and your motor dies or loses power. So yeah, I mean, motor needs a little more tuning. I'm not sure what's going on with it. I did do some studying on it last night and this morning, and I guess, you know, the needle valve is pretty particular about where it's at, you know, and it's not like any normal engine where you know, 2 turns out will get you a starting point. This one's more like 3/4 of the way out as a starting point, 3/4 of a turn, and that usually runs rich. Yeah, I mean, you know, I spent quite a bit of bucks on this thing, and hopefully I can get it working. Otherwise, it's I'm gonna be, you know, pull the pump and the carb off like a lot of guys do, and just run a standard OS 120 carb on it. Yeah, I might send a clip to Matt and see what he suggests I do with the runnability of it, because it was, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, let's see what happened, and what do we got to do to get this thing back in the air real quick here. And then I don't have time to really get into it this week, so, but it will come back. And now we're going to be getting into some covering repairs. The wheel pant came through, loosened up and came through the wing, so we got some damaged sheeting here, which is pretty common with a bad landing. I would not call that a crash. I'll call it a very unfortunate landing. It did fly, so I would call it somewhat successful. You guys put it down in the comments below what you think. You know, I don't think anything I did caused it to have this misfortune, but you know, we definitely got to do some more engine tuning. So anyways, we got that going. I hear some loose stuff inside, so I'll have to check that out. I think the tank might have just moved. It's yeah, the one fuel line's gone, and this one's pulled all the way back, so that moved back. Yeah, anyways, decide in the comments down below whether you'd like to see this guy again. Truth be told, I have 3 of these now. 2 of them need major crash repair, which I've already started doing. I got some plans there to get at least one of those back up in there, because one of them was mine. I know some guys have been asking for some more repair videos, so that over the winter we're going to do a pretty major one on one of them. They're pretty rough, and this might help us with like one of them needs a full the full upper turtle deck replaced, so you know, I might be able to get some templates off of this one, because these are not in the plans. And so yeah, so the idea here is probably to rehab this thing, get it flying, and probably put it up for sale. I don't know if I'll be upside down in it now or not. I got a plan to recover the fuselage, so that might happen now. Like I said, it flew. It needs some work. It needs servos. The servos in it are old and antiquated, and my personal flying style will not suit these for very long. And they're kind of weak. I'm already having problems with the throttle servo on it, so you know, yeah, it was a rush. Yeah, mistakes were made. The motor, you know, if it would have ran fine, probably would have had a good flight with it. So anyways, like I said, it's not really a crash. I think it's more of just a bad landing, and a lot of this is superficial. Now, we did lose both of those. That's pretty common on a bite on the end strut there. You know, those broke. At least they didn't take our cabanes out, but we got the other part. I could show you guys how to, we'll get another video on this, probably in the next upcoming, it'll probably be winter from all my luck. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you do like this stuff, the reviving flies, I got more planned. I got quite a few airframes up there that just need a little bit of work to get them flying. And then so I can do a video on, you know, kind of getting a resurrection going on those. The next one up will probably be a linear, I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's a mid-wing fun flight style plane. Anyways, that's probably going to come up next. I'm going to probably try to do one of these every month if I can. And, you know, they'll all be a little bit different. So, anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and I appreciate it. And we'll catch you on the next one.